The Forgotten Signal. The night was suffocatingly quiet, the kind of silence that pressed on your eardrums and made you question what might be lurking just out of sight. Melissa tightened her scarf against the bitter cold as she trudged up the deserted hiking trail. She wasn't supposed to be there. Nobody was. The park ranger had made it clear that the remote trails were closed due to treacherous conditions and recent strange incidents. But Melissa needed to get away, to escape the nightmares that had followed her since her best friend Sarah vanished without a trace on this very mountain 3 years ago. All that was left of Sarah was a garbled distress signal picked up by a nearby ranger station, a signal that repeated just 2 chilling words. Help me. The message stopped when the search began. Melissa's flashlight beam cut through the encroaching darkness. The frozen trees seemed to lean closer as if they were eavesdropping on her thoughts. Her boots crunched against the snow, a rhythm that oddly began to sync with an echo of softer, uneven footsteps behind her. She froze mid-step. The echo stopped. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling. The darkness swallowed her words whole. Pushing forward, Melissa stumbled upon a clearing marked by a faded, weather-beaten ranger's sign. Restricted area, do not enter. She hesitated. A rational voice in her head screamed for her to turn back, but her feet betrayed her, stepping over the barrier. The air seemed heavier here, and a faint metallic smell drifted past her nose. Her flashlight caught the glint of something half buried in the snow. A ranger's radio. She knelt to pick it up, her breath forming thick clouds in the freezing air. The radio crackled to life in her hand, its battery impossibly alive. A distorted, ghostly voice bled through the static. Help. Me. Melissa's blood ran cold. It was Sarah's voice. The forest came alive with sound, branches cracking, the crunch of heavy footsteps. Melissa spun around, but her flashlight beam illuminated nothing but shifting shadows. Her pulse thundered in her ears as she stumbled backward. Then, the radio hissed again, louder this time, as if someone, or something, was drawing closer. Melissa. The voice elongated her name into a guttural, inhuman growl. And then she saw it, a figure standing at the edge of the clearing. At first, she thought it was Sarah, but as her flashlight steadied, her stomach dropped. The figure wore Sarah's jacket, but its face was wrong. The lips stretched too wide into a jagged grin, and its eyes burned like twin coals, unblinking and hollow. Leave, or stay forever, it whispered, but the sound didn't match the movement of its mouth. It was coming from the radio in her hand. The creature lunged, impossibly fast, and Melissa ran. Her flashlight flickered violently as she crashed through the trees, her screams swallowed by the deafening roar of static from the radio. Her legs burned, her lungs screamed for air, but the thing was right behind her. She could hear the unnatural rhythm of its footsteps, mismatched and heavy, as if multiple limbs were crashing through the snow. Melissa's foot caught on an exposed root, and she went sprawling face first into the icy ground. The radio skidded from her grasp, falling silent. She scrambled to her knees, her ears ringing, her vision blurring, and that's when she saw it again. The figure loomed over her, its shadow stretched unnaturally long under the fractured beam of her flashlight. It tilted its head, mockingly human, before kneeling just inches away. Desperation surged through Melissa. Her fingers found the radio in the snow, and she smashed it against the ground. The static screamed like a wounded animal before cutting out entirely. The forest fell silent. The figure froze, its movements jittering as if it were a bad projection. And then it vanished, collapsing into the darkness like smoke sucked into a vacuum. Melissa stumbled to her feet and ran, not stopping until the first rays of dawn crept over the treetops. She reached the ranger station, frostbitten and delirious, muttering about Sarah, the radio, and the thing in the woods. The rangers found no tracks, no figure, and no sign of Sarah or the radio. Weeks later, back in her apartment, Melissa tried to convince herself it was all in her head, but then her phone buzzed with an unknown number. Her stomach tightened as she hesitated, then pressed play on the voicemail. "Help me,"